Joined now by Kyle Rowland from the Blade. And Kyle, we heard Jim Harbaugh say at halftime of the game against Penn State, this will be Michigan's finest hour. Well, it wasn't. It was pretty close. And since then, they've put together some finest hours. And all of a sudden, a Michigan team that looked like it was reeling 6 weeks ago has settled to calm the waves. They're looking pretty good this off week.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely leveled off. It seems like they're not going to hit rock bottom now. Indiana will be tough. Obviously, Ohio State, they could lose. But it just feels like things are kind of trending in the right direction. I wouldn't say the offense is completely fine-tuned and in some great rhythm. The Notre Dame game, yes, the line played great. They ran the ball wonderfully, but just that wasn't their offense. It was a monsoon game. They basically ran every play. And then last week against Maryland was odd, where they dominated on the scoreboard, but statistically wasn't really the finest offensive performance. But Shea Patterson's healthy. The line is much improved from where it was earlier in the year. I didn't understand why it wasn't good early in the year, quite frankly, the way they played so well last year. So I think they definitely are in a good spot right now. They've got confidence, which is huge. It makes a world of difference in any sport. So we'll see what happens. If they go into that Ohio State game 9-2, it's much different than what everyone thought it was going to be in September.
Going back to that Maryland game, you take the opening kick back for a touchdown. You block a punt. So you have two huge special teams plays, yet you only win by 31. And 31 is still a huge margin of victory, but Maryland really put together a good game plan and nearly executed an upset.
Yeah, it was a bizarre first half, I thought. I mean, statistically, if you looked at the halftime stats, you would have thought possibly Maryland would be winning. I mean, they kind of controlled the whole first half, even though they're down 21-0. But you got to give Michigan credit. I mean, teams that are playing well or good teams overcome getting, beat statistically or not having their best day or whatever. Obviously, like Ohio State last year at Maryland is kind of a prime example. They were awful that day and still somehow came out with a win. Michigan came out with a dominating win in terms of margin of victory. So once again, I think it's a good step for Michigan going into their bye week and into their next, biggest game of the season against Michigan State.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that Michigan State matchup. Here's my question for you. Is this the last time we'll see Jim Harbaugh coach against Mark D'Antonio in a Michigan State game?
I think so. I mean, Michigan State just seems like an untenable situation at this point. I mean, they offensively are just an absolute disaster.
Michigan State has to thank the Lord that Northwestern is in the Big Ten right now. Because the only offense worse than Michigan State's in the Big Ten is Northwestern.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that Michigan State administration has to tell Mark D'Antonio, you got to get rid of these guys. It's either you or them. We'll see what he does. He's an unbelievably loyal guy. Obviously, last offseason, he didn't really want to get rid of anyone. He just kind of switched around the deck chairs on the Titanic, and it's continued to sink this year. I think Michigan is going to kill Michigan State. I just don't think it's really going to be that competitive for a number of reasons. But offensively, Michigan State struggling is one reason. It's in Ann Arbor. That's another reason. Harbaugh's going to want to be out for this. He already beat Notre Dame. That was kind of one of the bugaboos. Now he can beat another rival. I just think Luke Fickell is the guy Michigan State needs to hire if D'Antonio retires. I think he was made for that job. Yeah. His recruiting, just everything about it. I mean, I think he could be. D'Antonio's been probably the best coach in school history at Michigan State.
He's got the most wins.
Yeah, he got the most wins. Maybe not the best if you look back at like Duffy Daugherty.
Duffy Daugherty, yeah.
But I think Luke Fickell could be just as good, if not better, than D'Antonio. I think he's that good. He's young. He'd be a home run. I think it's just a natural, leave for Luke Fickell.
And we're going to hear Luke Fickell's name tossed around for some of the other openings. USC, Florida State, might not be many other big name openings. Another name that's going to be tossed around for some of those openings is the guy up in Minnesota, PJ Fleck. And the Gophers, they've got a big one this week as they take on Penn State, a game that Michigan's going to be paying close attention to because the only way Michigan can backdoor their way into the Big Ten title game is to get a lot of help, and that help will start if Minnesota can knock off Penn State.
Yeah. I'm very excited for this game. I mean, it's funny, before the season, a lot of people kind of said, Minnesota might be 8-0, and lo and behold, they actually are. we're going to learn so much
Yes.
about Minnesota.
I think we're going to learn a lot about Penn State as
Yeah,
well.
no, for sure. The athleticism of Penn State, it just seems like a little bit of a mismatch against Minnesota, but it's on the road. It's in Twin Cities. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing them win, just with KJ Hamler and some of the speed and athletes that Penn State has. But it's going to be a very exciting game. PJ Fleck will really skyrocket to one of the most coveted names in the country if they happen to win this game. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge game in terms of the Big Ten. I mean, if Minnesota wins, they essentially clinch getting to the Big Ten championship game. So I think it's a bigger game for them than Penn State almost in a way. I know that kind of sounds crazy, but it would just be a program kind of defining win for Minnesota if they could win it.
The other big game this weekend, the Battle of Undefeateds in the SEC as Alabama takes on LSU. And this game is getting a lot of hype, deservedly so. But oftentimes, these 1 versus 2 matchups don't necessarily live up to that hype. Is this one going to be different?
I don't know. That's a good question. It'll be exciting regardless, just because I think there will be offensive fireworks. I mean, one of the teams might win by double digits, but it'll still be a good game. It'll be completely different than the 9-6 game that Alabama and LSU had in 2011. I really think, even on the road, that LSU has the advantage here. I mean, Alabama's defense is not the usual Alabama defense that everyone's used to seeing. Joe Burrow is just so good. I mean, his completion percentage, just the receivers that he has, Joe Brady, just unbelievable play caller, I think, so far this year. I really, really like LSU in this game. But clearly, I mean, the winner has the leg up in the SEC. They'll be the #1 team in the country. And it's always fun. I mean, 1-2 games are always fun. We rarely get them in the regular season, so definitely something to savor.
You know, we're used to seeing Joe Burrow come through in big games. Certainly, Central Catholic fans remember what he did in the state championship game back in high school when he was with Athens. And it's an interesting situation where Joe Burrow left Ohio State, and it's worked out well for Joe Burrow, and it's worked out very well for the Buckeyes with first Dwayne Haskins and then able to bring in Justin Fields and what they have done. I don't know if we've ever had a situation like that where you had 3 quarterbacks be able to be as successful as they have had, and if they've been interchangeable, if it would have worked out the same, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State did the right thing. I mean, you get definitely 2 years of Fields. You got 1 year of Haskins. I mean, if you keep Burrow, you get 0 years of Fields and 2 years of Burrow. So just the years wise.
But you'd still have Tate Martell.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I mean, it worked out for everyone. Ohio State did the right thing. I mean, even if Ohio State and LSU play in the national title game this year and LSU wins, they did the right thing by keeping Haskins over Burrow. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just the facts, in my opinion. But yeah, it's been amazing. Ohio Stadium has the only numbers they retire are the Heisman Trophy winners.
Joe Burrow, Bill Willis as well.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So Joe Burrow is an Ohio State graduate. So if he wins the Heisman, are they going to retire Joe Burrow's number?
Yeah, you know, put a little purple light in that corner. That would be interesting. So we got our first look at the college football rankings tonight, and obviously that's going to change with what happens on Saturday between Alabama and LSU, with Penn State, Minnesota. I guess, and this is probably the same message we could have every November when the first college football rankings come out. They aren't set in stone.
Yes.
Things are going to change with those rankings.
Yeah, breathe easy. I mean, it's always my favorite, not favorite, but I should say least favorite. I mean, just the overreactions of the first week of the playoff. Right? I mean, everyone thinks, you know, if you're number 7, that your team has been shafted by the committee and they have no chance of moving up. And like all these teams are going to play each other. I mean, Penn State and Minnesota play. Ohio State and Penn State play. Ohio State and Minnesota potentially play. LSU and Alabama play. There's all sorts of football left, and it's going to look nothing like it looked tonight. Well, probably it could actually is the thing. The top 4 could maybe be what's in the playoff, but a whole lot of moving parts are still in store for everyone.
All right, thank you very much, Kyle Rowland from The Blade. Filling in this week with Ashley Bostock out, as we appreciate your time and your insight into the Michigan Wolverines and the college football landscape right now.